So I'm Jeff Gebhard with Braun Intertec, very involved with ACEC and the GeoProfessional Business Association nationally, and then also ACEC here locally. But do want to touch on those organizations because it's a big part of what I'm going to talk about here too. So, with Braun Intertec, one of my roles has been the Chief Technical and Innovation Officer to really look at this, the emerging issues and trends facing a company like Braun Intertec, and really consulting engineering, geoprofessional, geotechnical engineering, and the engineering industry as a whole. So I've spent a lot of time looking at this and trying to figure it out, and then have collaborated with other national organizations to look at this. But really, how are emerging trends, issues, whether it be technology or we're all facing workforce issues right now, how are those going to really, affect our industry long term? So that's what I want to touch on a little bit. So, like I said, some of the partner organizations that we went through is GeoProfessional Business Association, GBA. I'll touch. I got one slide on that group, and then American Council of Engineering Companies, ACEC. So then I'll get into really the emerging issues and trends, and really I'm gonna talk about this through the lens of the Crystal Ball Workshop, which is a group that I'm a part of, where we, through GBA and partner organizations, that really look at this, almost a biannual basis, twice a year, but we have a Crystal Ball Workshop every 3 years. So that's really where a lot of this is coming from. Industry leaders, CEOs of geoprofessional organizations, contractors, industry, universities as well. So that's really the context of where these emerging issues and trends are coming from. So I'll kind of talk about where we are right now in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, and I'll bring some context to that, and then really look at some of the threats that are out there, and what are really what's driving these disruptions. And then really the flip side of that, and I think the more optimistic side of threats, are opportunities. How can we, as geoprofessional engineers, whether we're consultants or state or contractors, you name it, or a university, how can we turn these threats into opportunities? What's out there? And then really some recommendations that came out of the Crystal Ball Workshop to help companies like ours, GBA members, ACEC members, state DOTs, departments of health, that type of thing. What are some recommendations to really turn these threats into opportunities? All right, first, GBA. So it's a Geoprofessional Business Association, established in 1968. For a bunch of basically geotech engineer CEOs got together and saw their litigation costs and the risks of doing business as a geotech engineer going through the roof. And really, they were brought together to form an insurance company, really, and which was Associated Soil and Foundation Engineers Incorporated. Now it's called Terra. It's still in existence, but basically pool their resources and distribute the risk across all member firms, geotechnical engineers. So that insurance company is now Terra, still in existence and still doing good work to help insure companies like ours and the industry, the geoprofessional industry. So 1969, it started as ASFE, and then really transitioned, just some rebranding in 1985. So a lot of you may have seen stuff in school or worked on ASFE case studies and things like that. It still is a very useful tool to look at the risks and the business aspects of our profession that are very unique to geotech engineers, to environmental, to our COMET, the construction materials engineering testing industry. We do have different business issues and different risks. So this group was formed to really look at that. And then in 2014, it was rebranded again as the GBA, GeoProfessional Business Association, really because it's not just soil and foundations engineers anymore. We bring in other disciplines like environmental and CMT. So, really, I pulled this off their website. or off our website. I'm a member. So, and all the Braun Intertec, and I know AET is a member too. So you're all members of GBA as well. So I can't speak to everybody, but I know those two groups are members. So the GBA helps us members and clients to confront risk and optimize performance. And it is unique to our industry, which is one thing that kind of differentiates the GBA. So, and then ACEC GeoProfessional Coalition, another group. So I'm the chair of this coalition nationally, and really this broadens out the geoprofessional business side and adds advocacy and political advocacy. So I'm not going to read through all that stuff, but it's hundreds of thousands of engineers are represented by ACEC, and the Geoprofessional Coalition is relatively new. About 4 years ago, we started this to address basically the unique aspects of geotechnical engineer, environmental, and CMT. And then I actually have our clients at the table. Our clients are ACEC members, and also have that lobbying, the political action committee PACs and political action funds to help advocate for the issues that we deem necessary at the Capitol, whether it's state or national. So the purpose is it's different enough. I think it's broader than GBA to have both of these groups working together, but really it's about working with clients and then the politics behind what we do on a daily basis. I mean, a lot of us sit with our heads down and we're crunching numbers or dealing with clients. The political landscape is a big deal, and if we're not playing in that field, somebody else is, and we need to advocate for that too. So just a two little background of two groups that were very involved in the Crystal Ball Workshop, and that's why I touched on this group. So I want this to be a casual conversation type thing. So if you've got a question, feel free to raise your hand. Yep. Yep. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now. So the Crystal Ball Workshop is here. I'll just a quote, basically an interesting quote about learning and developing as a person, as an industry. We always look backwards on that, but life moves forward, so we have to constantly be looking backwards, and that's kind of a I thought that was a great quote by Kierkegaard. So we'll get into the Crystal Ball Workshop. So really it's a group of 24 professionals, everything from CEOs of major geotech environmental companies. The president of GI was there, contractors through the ADSC, which is it was the drilled shaft group, but basically the drill foundation, or the drill foundation group. ACEC was representative as well, but it was really coordinated by GBA. So and the Emerging Issues and Trends Committee really puts this thing together, and then we discuss these key questions. What does the future hold for our industry? What will our clients need? What will our team need? So we're looking externally, we're looking internally, and then and then we go into threats, opportunities, that type of thing. So this is the fourth Crystal Ball Workshop we've put on about every 3 years, 4 years or so. We did it a couple years ago, pre-pandemic, in Louisville, Kentucky. And then we worked with Engineering Change Lab, which is kind of a really interesting kind of think tank, looking at these same issues, but even on a higher level than what I'm talking about here. Is big trends in the industry from education. How can we revamp the education system to help engineers, that type of thing. And Kyle Davey helps run that. We asked him to facilitate this Crystal Ball Workshop for us. So I'll kind of get into a little bit more detail about Crystal Ball, but really we convene this group every 3 or 4 years to discuss those 3 questions. So, all right. So I kind of talked a little bit about where we are kind of in time with innovation. And, right now, experts, people, whoever, say we're in the midst of Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. And really, what we look back on the three previous revolutions, engineers played a huge role in that. Whether, from mechanization, steam power, what we think of, whether it's European or American industrial revolution, getting that mass production going, then into, Henry Ford and assembly line and really the mass production and kind of the assembly, the efficiencies in process. Electricity came on and facilitated that as well. 3.0 is really kind of think of it as the quality revolution. Think Honda cars and Japanese computers, and that to really look at Kaizen, and Peter Drucker's doing his work there to really revolutionize automation, computers, electronics, utilizing those to really increase process and quality as well. So, and now we're into looking at cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, networks, but really, machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, which is kind of, it's a progression there. A lot of kind of connectivity of things, and then really that machine learning piece. So what we look, within the Crystal Ball workshop, we got kind of a background of kind of where we are, what's happened, and kind of what could be facing us, and then we kind of wrestled with two questions. Will the engineers embrace technology, support disruption of our current practices, and then bring a better quality of life for all which is something historically engineers have been very good about embracing technology and change. Is that going to continue on through the fourth industrial revolution? I've seen successes and I've seen failures on that too. And the GeoProfessionals, us in the room, in my opinion, and kind of what I've seen throughout the country, might be a little bit behind the curve versus other engineers on that, embracing that technology. So, and then in the future will be, I think the big question that we should be looking at as companies and individuals as engineers is, will we be working for engineering companies with advanced technology capabilities, or the vice versa? Will we be working for technology companies with advanced engineering capabilities? I think we're at a turning point right now where I think we're seeing companies that are leading here as more of a technology company that are really good engineers versus an engineering company that have a lot of really good tech. But we'll see where it goes. Now, granted, this was 2 years ago as well, and a lot of things have come along in the last 2 years, and I'll touch on those as well. Kind of an interesting, some interesting things. So I did not spend a whole lot of effort on slides for the threats, because really, the threats are interesting, but really what I want to talk about are the opportunities that come out of that. So some of the threats that we looked at are outside financial influences. What's going to be driving revenue? Autonomous vehicles. There's a lot of other kind of outside influences that are going to drive the politics and funding from politics, that type of thing. Big data, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I think that's a big disruptor. We're seeing it already. I mean, that's what Watson does for IBM. It's really affecting a lot of industries, professional industries. It's disrupting the law industry right now. It's really disrupting accounting as well. Medicine is really being disrupted by gathering, managing data, and then applying AI and machine learning to it. Internet of Things. Think your Alexa and your cameras at your home. You can set that up so when your garage door goes up and there's a sensor, turns on the radio and a light, and all these things are interconnected. Well, that's happening in our industry as well, in construction, within our labs. We can get data on our phones by walking past a concrete brake machine, as opposed to writing down what you think it broke at and things like that. So that interconnectedness through the internet, workforce changes, and we spend a lot of time on this, and I mean, this is the biggest disruptor right now in our industry is workforce shortages, and then the workforce, the big W workforce is working other places and not on our drill rigs or not in our field, slumping concrete, or even into the engineering professions. So, we saw this as a big threat. We had no idea it was going to be the threat that it is today. Most companies are leaving money on the table right now because we don't have enough people. So, and that's not unique to the people sitting in this room. That's all over the country. So, big tech competition, we're seeing this as well. It really ramped up here in the last 2 years since Crystal Ball. Firms are buying software and collaborating to consolidate and then utilize that data to then put out a product with maybe never even drilling a hole in the ground. Put out some sort of some level of recommendations to do that. Your competition's doing that. A software provider you all use is doing that right now. Gint is no more, or Gint is going to be no more. It's replaced. Bentley is doing this type of stuff. So it's that ramped up faster than we had thought it was going to. So, and then another big one is the antiquated pricing model, the hourly rate. Doesn't allow us to recoup fees for innovation. It forces commoditization, and it's really an antiquated model for the value we provide. So, not talking collusion here or anything like that, but I'm saying, as you're looking at how we're billing out work, is this really, are we recouping the value of what we are actually doing? So, and that kind of brings me to the Innovator's Dilemma. It's a great book by Clayton Christensen, talking about, and it's got lots of examples of companies who were unwilling to kind of cannibalize their own business in order to go after something better or the next best thing. Kodak, we all have heard of Kodak, or maybe some of the younger people haven't, but Kodak invented the digital camera, but we're so afraid of it was going to cannibalize their film business, it sat on the shelf, or it was very high end. Well, somebody, I don't know who was the fast follower behind Kodak, but someone developed it, and now I haven't seen a film camera, in 15, 20 years. So, that's the innovator's dilemma, and I think that holds a lot of us back. It holds not just geotechs and geoprofessionals back. Is really okay. What, move into a CPT? Well, geez, hey, I do SPT all the time, and that means less SPT. What, should I really go into CPT? That's a kind of a minor innovator's dilemma, but that's something we face all the time. So, so I threw a couple Steve Jobs quotes in here, but all these threats, I think the real innovator and the successful folks in the room will see these as opportunities and not threats. How can we move on these threats to create opportunities? I think that's where the real innovation and that's where the real advantages lie. So, all right, 5 opportunities that we saw from the Crystal Ball workshop. So speed of adoption, looking, where do you want to be in adoption? There's advantages to be the first, to be on the bleeding edge. There's advantages to be a fast follower. And then business models, look beyond the chargeable hour, touched on that. How are we moving past that to really get the value of, because these opportunities aren't free. It takes money to invest in innovation, to change processes, to do things better and faster. There's costs. How can we recoup those if we're doing it at an hourly rate? We're passing all those savings on to the end client, which we want to save the client money, but we also want to get a return on our investment because we're taking that risk. So holistic thinking, looking at how the environment, social, and economics connect. Look at the big picture, because these opportunities and the solutions are holistic and aren't just looking at one piece of our organizations or one technology or one issue. So that's one thing I think with the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we're seeing a push for, driven by a lot of things. One here in Minneapolis with the Floyd murder, and then also with our workforce issues. We have no choice but to look at how to diversify, get more equitable, and include more people. And that's the holistic thinking, please. Communication and facts help society separate truth from fiction when it comes to engineering. Make sure I got my clock on here. Okay, we're good. So, and then ethics. I think what we're seeing, I'll get into a little bit, is we have a code of ethics as engineers. There are other organizations, there are other, like technology in particular, does not have a code of ethics. Where is that going to go? How is that going to ferret itself out? So, speed of adoption. So if we look at one segment of what we do, drilling, the US is not keeping pace. We're 10, 15 years behind Europe on soil exploration. So I think there's a lot of reasons that's the case, but I think that's one example where the US is not keeping pace. That last bullet is one of my biggest reasons behind that too. And then adopting and investing in technology, looking at your business first. Technology for technology's sake is a waste of money and a waste of time. It's cool, but from a business standpoint, it's not fiscally responsible. You got to look at your business and where can technology fit into it. And then you think we as individuals, we as companies, we as state departments have to look at, where do we want to be on this? Do we want to be on the bleeding edge and be the first one adopting this technology? That works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Or do we want to be a fast follower? I know we at Braun Intertec have played all of these roles, has been on the bleeding edge of embracing new technology and rolling that out and even commercializing it. We've also been a fast follower on things too. And then I'll be honest, we've been a laggard. I think everyone in this room has as well, where things have moved faster than we have. So, and then within our professional licensing, we have to manage the standard of care. I think that's one thing that holds our industry back from being truly innovative is the standard of care. We go out over our skis or do something a little bit more innovative, and the S hits the fan, we could run into problems. Everything from miscommunications to full-on lawsuits and that type of thing. So we've got to manage that standard of care if we are going to, especially, speed up that adoption. If we're going to be on the bleeding edge. So, 2, look at our business models. Hourly based, I'm a firm believer, drives commoditization and is holding us back from what it could be. It doesn't allow us to monetize our investments very well, especially if our investments are only to be more efficient. It basically drives that the price being the only differentiating factor, which I don't think is good for our industry. looking at data management and workforce shortages are driving this change. So, the fact that we can't find enough people, and I'm a firm believer, well, I'm a believer that we're never going to find enough people to do the work. That's going to force us to change. That's going to force us to manage data better, do more with less, do remote things, that type of thing. The pandemic, in my opinion, has helped us advance that a little bit more and helped our clients understand that that's a necessity too. So, all right, holistic thinking. So if we're going to utilize these tools like big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, we've got to look at the whole picture. It pulls from multiple data sets, could be millions of data sets to really work into artificial intelligence and machine learning to really get something out of that. And that's not just looking at your boring information or your soil information. It's looking at weather, water table fluctuations, river elevations, earthquakes, your soil data, traffic, look at all these different data sets to actually make some real recommendations on there. So we might do that as geotech engineers or environmental engineers. Well, I think eventually the computers are going to get us most of the way there. Our competitors and our clients are doing some of that already. So it's already happening to those industries that I had talked about before. So really it's understanding how these things work together as a team for your for the output, and I think the discipline to manage that data, which has really been the stumbling block, I think, for a lot of industries in being able to utilize artificial intelligence is they've got a lot of data, but it's unmanaged, and or it's managed for a little bit and then falls off. So the discipline to manage that data and then make sure it fits together for whatever solution we're going to provide. So we also have to look. I mean, this is going to give us a lot more solutions too. We have to be able to. I think this is the engineering piece where we'll be, is look at all these solutions. Okay, what fits? What applies to our problem? Because with AI, machine learning, it's going. It's always going and spitting out data. How do we weed through that thing, all that stuff to actually get the answer? So, all right, communication and facts. So, really looking at, the speed of data transmission is a lot faster now. I think we've got to look at, what's our processes, what's our quality process, so we can actually get good data out there. Because I think we've seen it already. We've seen in other industries. There's a real risk with the speed of data coming out, whether it's text or automatic data, release through AI or whatever, that it doesn't get the review that we're used to. We're used to having two sets of eyes on every report. Well, it probably happens still, but on a text where where someone says, 2 foot of select granular in there instead of egg backfill, text goes out, well, they build it, there's no review on that. So, I mean, that's a very simple solution. But if we're pumping out data through machine learning or AI, we got to make sure our quality processes are in place for that. So, and then ethics. I touched on this before. The technology industry does not have ethical codes. There's no agreed upon ethical standard. Engineers do. So as these two groups converge, whether we're a technology company that does engineering or an engineering company that has technology, those are converging. Who's going to win out? Is it going to be, is our ethics going to take the path of least resistance? The cynic in me says yes. I hope not. I'm going to do my best so it doesn't, but I think that's been the practice, is if there's an ethical conflict, it'll take the path of least resistance. I don't know. I think current attacks on the professional licensure, I think showcases this. I mean, in in a lot of state houses and senates, there's a push to eliminate licensure for everything, and engineering being one of them, whether that's coming from the technology industry, whether it's coming from, kind of the libertarian style where just let's let everything go. It comes from a lot of different areas, but those are real opportunities for us to showcase our ethics and our skills. Right? Some would see it as a threat. I think you can, but those are real, and they're happening today. So, all right. So took it all. We took a look at all these threats, kind of looked at, okay, where's the opportunity for us, for individuals or companies, for organizations, and then we kind of came through on a couple recommendations, or actually 5 recommendations. And I like this Albert Einstein quote, kind of an innovation quote, is, I mean, we can't apply the same solutions to the problems that got, okay, I'm going to read it instead of paraphrase. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So, these issues that we have right now, we've got to think differently. And I'm a huge fan of that quote. So, kind of the overlying theme for the recommendations is that, we should include technology strategies in our plans, and really, start now to invest in that. Don't be afraid to fail, and just be prepared for kind of what we're going through with the fourth industrial revolution. It's a technologies that support our business. I'm a firm believer our business is important, and what we do is critical to society. And then how do we bring technology in to support that and do that better, more efficiently, more profitably, with less issues, with less risk. So, all right. So five actions here. Got to monetize our data. We got to, control. We are the keepers of the earth, of the data of the earth, and that's kind of a big, kind of a slogan thing for geotech engineers or environmental. I mean, we know the earth better than anybody else. So who better to keep and basically monetize that data? So look at other perspectives. I think the DE&I journey that we're going through as a society right now is helping that. I think COVID and the workforce issues are helping that as well. So creative data management, that's kind of, how are we going to look at all these data sets? We own a lot of data as geoprofessionals, whether it's soil borings or lab tests, concrete breaks. I mean, I don't know how many concrete breaks we do a day. It's a lot. We own a lot of data, and we can manage a lot of data. How do we find the right tools? And there's an amazing amount of public data out there too, not just what we do on a daily basis, but weather, water levels, river tides, sunrise, there's all this public data too that we can fold in. How do we pair these things up or get them together to actually get a real result? So, and then another key one is inspire young professionals. That's a workforce piece. We're not seeing the numbers of geotech engineers, drillers, technicians, you name it, geologists coming into the profession that we used to. How do we inspire young engineers to come in the profession, and once they're in the profession, stay and become excellent? So, all right. So monetize data. We need to recognize that we have data. We've got to be able to manage it, get it in a place where it's reusable. That's what Google's been doing for 20 years. That's what Facebook does. Now they sell it to the public. We may not be, do that, as advertising and things like that. But, very successful data company. That's what Bentley's doing, is managing their data, taking all this different data, managing it, controlling it, and then repurposing. I think that's a key to getting through the fourth industrial revolution. And then look for technical opportunities within your company. Look where the pain points are. Look where like when field data collection. Okay, geez, I'm sick of writing all this stuff down on a piece of paper, then I drop it in the mud and we lose a day of testing, or it's gone. Okay, let's look at how we can solve that issue. That was 20 years ago, but look at pain points within your business and how can some technology apply, and then move that forward. So, and then control the Earth's data. Like I said, this is kind of a banner type thing, but who better to kind of keep and manage the Earth's data than our industry? I think there's movements afoot with DIGS, which this is the GI chapter. I'm sure you've heard about the DIGS program and the data integrity. I forget, but basically it's a universal format for geotechnical data. There's good, bad pieces to that, but how do we take the Earth's data and make that a valuable resource to our clients, to the public, whoever? So is it through visualization, the Bentley model type of thing? Is it some other way that I'm not even thinking? I think that's something we should be looking at as an industry. So, and then diverse perspectives. Having instead of hiring straight on GPA, look at emotional intelligence. Look at hiring different perspectives into your organization, or into your groups. And I'm not just talking about different backgrounds. I'm talking about different education. I'm not just talking about race or gender, that type of thing, but it goes across the board. We've hired teachers to help us with our data management because they've got a skill set around that. So I think kind of looking kind of outside the box to find people that can really support your business. That's other companies, other industries have really found that valuable. We have as well, and I think that will set you up for success long term. So, creative data management. I kind of touched on this a number of times. I think the risk here is somebody's going to do this. Somebody is going to take our data, which a lot of it's public, some of it's not, but a lot of it's public, and they're going to manage it and do it right now. I know one of the Google X projects about 8 years ago was Google Subsurface to map, just like Google Earth or Street View, whatever, to map subsurface. Well, Google didn't have a way to monetize that, so they shut it down. But I mean, that was 8 years ago. They could have that if they saw, the return on investment that they're looking for, and they're not looking for the same ROI that Braun is. They're looking at much higher ROI if they're going to invest in that. But that type of technology and thinking is out there to do that, to map basically. Let's just start with the U.S. subsurface and get us 90% to where we need to be without drilling a hole. Drilling a hole in the ground. So if we're not going to embrace this, somebody else will. And then we're engineers working for a technology company. Might not be the end of the world, but kind of figure out where you want to be. But yeah, someone's going to do it. And we've seen it in other organizations or other industries. So, and then inspiring young professionals. Really, you don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. You basically hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. That's a classic Steve Jobs quote. But that's really the key to this. And inspire the next generation. Get out there and get people into the industry and engage in STEM, engage in I would say even any engineering, and that rising tide would lift all boats. So without that, we're gonna have some real problems. the two organizations that I'm affiliated with, I touched on, are doing that. But there's a lot more to be done. So, and don't disregard young professionals' ideas as well. Because they don't have gray hair or no hair or whatever. An outside perspective is valuable. So, so those are the three actions. I figured I'd be a little bit light on time, but I think that's perfect. And open it up to questions.